So you're on a date with a guy or a girl. Your dinner's just arrived, but you're already waiting to pay the check and just get the heck out of there. You probably should have known something was up when they looked very different from their bio picture. But besides looks, there were plenty of warning signs leading up to this moment. Your date was late when you got together. They got some major road rage when the car in front of you didn't move a second after the light turned green. And since you've been at the restaurant, they haven't stopped talking about themselves, except to hit on the waiter. That sounds like a disaster date to me. By the end of the night, you're alone at home, exhausted, frustrated, and more confused than ever. You think to yourself, how will I ever find the perfect person to date and eventually marry? We're here to tell you how. We asked a few people around FGR, how would you define love?
Love is when you give everything for someone. It's when you give up everything for them.
Love is a full, selfless commitment to another person.
Love is the complete giving of oneself to another.
Love is commitment.
Love is putting someone else's actions before your own.
All of those are pretty good answers. So what exactly is love? It's hard to define, but there are some things that love isn't. It's not an emotion. It's not just happy fuzzy feelings or butterflies in your stomach when you're with the other person. While these are good aspects of a relationship, the emotions don't define the love.
According to JP2, love in the full sense of the word is a virtue. It revolves around the concept of goodwill, which means that you want the good of the other person over your own desires. Love also centers around the other person as a subject, as an actual person with their own wants, desires, and dreams. In love, you accept the other person fully, want the best for them, and want to help them grow in holiness to become the best person they can be.
Next question, we asked the same people, what is the opposite of love?
The opposite of love is quite simply hate. It's where you want anything to get rid of them.
The opposite of love is hate.
The opposite of love is hate.
Hate.
It's hate.
Oh, students of FGR, it's not hate. You might think it's hate, but when you hate someone, just like when you love someone, you experience passion towards the other person. A negative passion in this case. But you still hate them as a person. Actually, the opposite of love is feeling indifferent towards the other person and treating them as an object, otherwise known as use.
There are two kinds of use. First, there's use as means. JP2 says, a person must not be merely the means to an end for another person. Basically, you can't use another person to achieve your own goals. So if your best enemy from middle school emails you out of nowhere, being all buddy-buddy, asking you for a favor,
You're being used.
Yep, and the second form of use is use as pleasure. Use as pleasure includes making somebody else the butt of a joke, or basically any instance where you use another person to make yourself feel good.
Oh, Mr. Franco! What about sex?
I'm getting there, young Padawan. Use as pleasure can include sexual acts, but that doesn't mean sexuality is bad.
JP2 says,
the sexual urge in man is a fact which he must recognize and welcome as a source of natural energy. Our challenge is to make good use of the sexual urge and harness the natural energy it provides to serve a love that is genuine and true.
So sexuality is a good thing. We just need to make sure that we use it correctly and that it's not the focus of the relationship. Otherwise, it creates more opportunities for a person to be used.
Yep, you've got it. JP2 also said,
we each have the capacity to create, to give birth, both physically and spiritually.
sex fits into marriage because it creates life and allows for a special and intimate bond between two people. This also explains the importance of waiting until marriage.
So, this is really cool and all, but it doesn't really answer the question of how to find a good spouse.
that brings us to our final point. You want to meet your perfect person? Just follow these 6 easy steps. Let's go to the top of them.
The first, attraction. This one's pretty self-explanatory. If you meet a person you're interested in romantically, there's obviously gotta be some kind of initial attraction. When you're with that person, you're thinking, there's something about you that I like.
The second step is desire. This one's tricky. It's basically a need for the other person to be with you, and it can quickly turn into use if you let it dominate the relationship.
Step number 3 is when the relationship starts to move from use to love. This step is goodwill. where you want the good of the other person over your own and want to help them on their journey to heaven.
This brings up an interesting concept in a relationship, and that's reciprocity. This basically means that both people are contributing to the relationship. When one person does something nice for the other, it becomes their turn to do something nice. This is a key element to establishing trust and confidence in a relationship.
Step 4. Sympathy. When we think of sympathy, we probably think, I'm sorry for your loss. While this step does involve an emotional connection, it's not necessarily one of sadness. This is when the two people in the relationship begin to share experiences.
The fifth step is friendship. This one is super important. This is the first time when two people in a relationship are truly unified. They share common interests and goals for the purpose of furthering their community. Also, and this is probably the most important part, the love that these people share is constant. It doesn't just disappear when things get hard.
And now the final step, betrothed love, otherwise known as marriage. In this lifelong commitment, you trust your spouse so much that you completely give yourself to them. All of your hopes and dreams become theirs, and all their hopes and dreams become yours.
So if you can remember these 6 steps the next time you're on a dinner date, you'll be in a better position to find your future partner.
Alright folks, that pretty much covers it. In this episode, we covered how the human person is a subject, not an object. Told you about the love and its real opposite, and gave you the 6 steps leading to a good marriage. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.